Okay, guys, good night. Thanks for joining me here again live. Those of you guys who were following last night, I've been mixing a song by a good friend of mine, Keon Cupid, a song called New Perspective, something that he produced himself. And the I've been mixing a song by a good friend of mine, Keon Cupid. Song. Sorry about the delay there. That's figuring that out. So yeah, song by a friend of mine, Keon Cupid. It's a song called New Perspective, and I started the mix last night. Last night, what we did, we brought the drums together, just the leveling of it. We added no effects yet. We brought the percussion in. We brought the bass in. We began fixing a couple issues on the bass. We brought a piano track in that we realized we had to replace. We replaced that piano, and that's as far as we got last night. We replaced the piano, so we're gonna continue right where we left off. We're gonna first off, we're gonna have a listen to where we at, so we can gain some perspective once again to see if what we've been working on so far made a lot of sense. And after that, we'll start adding in a couple of the remaining elements. So here we go. I'm just gonna start by playing from the very top. You guys remember, you can ask questions if you like. I'll keep an eye on the chat and try to answer anything you want to know about, as well as let me know your thoughts as we go along. Off the piano that we added last night is a little loud. Gonna color these synth things probably a purple color. So everything choral, I'm gonna give a color purple. Glenn and Anthony, I've seen you guys. Good vibes. Good to see you. So I'm just going to move that piano off the center. I'm just going to move it to the left a little bit probably. Again, it's a stereo piano, so I'm not just going to use the regular pan, I'm going to use stereo pan. So I hear some cymbals landing in some very strange places. I'll have to figure out what is the function of those cymbals. I'll have to chat with Keon, the producer, about that. So listening today, I think I overdid it with the snare. So I'm just gonna look at that snare. Nice, that's a little better. So, for those of you who just joining in, this is a song by Keon Cupid, a pan player from South Trinidad. This is a song he produced himself, and he's been having some difficulty finishing it. So he asked me to help him with the mix. So this is me just uncovering his tracks track by track and listening to them and placing them into some not so well. Last night we ran into an issue where the piano track, for a number of reasons, didn't work well. So we ended up replacing the piano. Right now I'm on the fence with the bass track. We may have to redo that bass track. So far it kind of works. I'm not 100% sold yet, but I'll let that slide for the minute. But yeah, so right now we're just gonna continue adding tracks and finding a proper space for each one of the elements he produced. So here we go. By the way, those of you who have projects on your hard drives that are not finished, I can help you finish your songs. Give me a call. Let me put my info on the screen so you can see it. So if you have a project that you've been working on and you can't seem to get it finished professionally, give me a call or an email, and I can help you with that. Okay, I see a track here called Muted Guitar. Let's have a look. Excellent, Keon, you're here. Seeing you. Good vibes. You guys in the comments, Keon Cupid is the producer, arranger, composer of this piece. I'm just doing the mix. Hail him up, check him out. He's a very excellent pan player, great musician. Just gonna cut some of the silence out of that guitar track, because we don't need the noise associated with silence. Let me go to the other screen so you can see what I'm doing. So there are two reasons why you might want to do something like that. First reason is, number one, anything that's silence or looks like silence or should be silence, if there's an audio file there, it adds a layer of noise, right? The way to get rid of that completely is to literally cut it out. If it's unnecessary, cut it out. Another good reason for removing silence on your tracks is it reduces the pressure you put on the seek head of your drive. Think about it. If the drive head has to seek to find a bit of audio that's really not adding anything sonically to the project, then you're literally wasting the bandwidth of the reed head, right? It could cause you to, as your tracks increase. Let's say this song doesn't have many tracks; it's only 24. But some of the songs I work on have up to 150 tracks. If I were to allow a lot of those tracks to have lots of silent passages in them, then number one, the noise would build up. Imagine the noise floor multiplied by 150 times, right? That's a lot of noise. So you want to cut all the silence out. And the other thing is the seek head. Imagine the seek head trying to seek for 150 tracks of silence. You're literally doing yourself a disservice because there's nothing there. So that's nothing else in the song. Let me see here. Hold on. though it's a sort of a just gonna move it off center a little bit. Okay, right now it's a hair loud, so let's back it down a hair. I'll move it even more to the right, and I'll move the piano to the left. Okay, so all these quarter things, I'm gonna put them in a group. So first thing I'm gonna do is give them all. Yeah, first thing I'm gonna do is go to track here. I'm gonna say create track stack, and I'm gonna make it a summing stack. Summing stack means that the outputs of all of these are gonna end up on a common auxiliary bus. Okay, and I'm gonna call these things these are the things that play harmony. Everything that plays harmony is gonna go on this bus. So not the lead pan, not the bass, not the percussion, not the drums, everything else. I'm also gonna color these tracks. Okay, let's hit play there. Just gonna mute that element for a while as we keep adding stuff. I see a track here called rhythm guitar. It looks really loud up front, but quiet as it goes along. Let's see why that is. So let's play from the top here, and let's see why that is. Okay, Kian. So you're a little busy on this track, man. This particular track here is a bit busy and it's. Remember yesterday we were talking about being aligned vertically. Vertically means the tracks above it need to be doing similar harmonic things. You remember when I played that piano, I was playing a simple pattern all the way through, but when I got down to the end around here, something happened on both the bass and the pan that forced me to. Let's see if we can hear it. Check it out, bass and pan. Right? You see, so what caused that? What influenced that was me trying to be in sync vertically. I was trying to make sure that all the tracks are related to each other vertically. When I say vertically, I mean look if you look at the arrange page from top to bottom, each track should be doing similar things. When I say similar things, they should be following the same or reading the same chord chart. Then essentially, every music. Think of each track in a session as musicians playing in a band, and they all should be reading from the same chord chart. What's happening with this track here uh, is vertically it doesn't align. So if I solo, if I check this guy here, that works. So that it's a little busy, but it works. See, that there doesn't work because it's not aligning vertically. It should everybody else playing D minor. See what went on there? He started to play his own chords, like as though he was in his own band there, Kian. So that those are things you gotta watch because not only does it make the production sound messy, it gets difficult to make it mesh in a mix because regardless of how no I just played it loud there to demonstrate, but if I try to turn that down, no matter how low I turn that, it stick out every time it plays something different. Check this out. It's real low, you can barely hear it, but check this out. Heard that? It just sounded like something went askew. You can't tell what's wrong, but it's literally that track they're playing the wrong chords. Alright, so that's one of the things you may have to look. I know this track is labeled rhythm guitar, and once again, I think your track it could be a cool track, but for some reason it's not doing what a rhythm guitar should do. So this Keon, with your permission, is something that may need to get replaced too. Once you say yeah, I'll replace that for you. Yeah, I'll mute it for now. We'll move on. Let's open the next thing. The next thing is called brass here. Let's open this brass. Play from the top. Okay, yeah, that brass is not bad. I'll keep it really low. Because if I remember correctly, it sounds like it's shadowing the melody of the chorus. So I'll keep it secondary. Let me make the track a stereo track. Control stereo. 1, 2. Okay. All right, Keon say he don't mind me replacing the guitar track, so I'm gonna do that same process I did last night with the piano. Just gonna replace that guitar track. I'm gonna play a keyboard rhythm guitar on this section. So I'm gonna delete this guy here, and I'll use this very track. Let's say input stereo, and I'm gonna use the motif again tonight. I'm gonna use channel channel input 17 and 18. For now, I'm gonna monitor, and we're also gonna create track, new external MIDI track. Let's not the Triton Extreme. Let's say the Motif ES, and this time I'm gonna use channel 2. Okay, so let's. Okay, so let's put a little guitar there with a wah on it. I'm gonna turn that guitar up some more as well. This is the monitor channel. I just turn the monitor up so we can hear it. Hit save as we go along. That's important, guys. Always remember to hit save. Let me switch cameras so you can see what I'm doing. All right, here we go. Alright, so most of that I could keep. I think I'll just change the end. Zoom in. So from here, I'm gonna redo. That's where it goes back to that G minor. Delete that. And let's play there. Play from there. Okay. I think that's all I need. So here we go. So I think I'm just gonna track that as audio right away because it's not going to be a very prominent track. As long as it holds that rhythm and keeps the energy moving, I think I should be okay. So I'm just gonna convert that to audio real quick. So as you can see, what I'm doing there, I'm recording the output of the motif onto an audio track. That way I can MIDI and continue mixing. So I had set up all the routing before. So the same track that I was monitoring on now becomes the track that I record to. So on that same track, I turned off the input monitoring, turned it on to record input, and now I'm just letting this track play and record itself into the track above. So it's not I'm seeing your question here about you. So you're asking. Let me turn down. sorry. So I'm seeing your question. You're asking if the MIDI tracks takes more CPU usage than the audio, and the answer to that is no. It actually takes quite a bit less, to be honest, because an external device is literally generating its own sound. MIDI data is very small, right? Now, if you remember, there's a difference between MIDI. MIDI has nothing to do with sound. MIDI is just the language that musical instruments communicate via, okay? So when you record MIDI, even if it's either an external or internal, so even if it's an external synth or a soft synth, what's happening there? The thing that takes CPU usage is not the MIDI data itself. What on a soft synth? What takes up the CPU usage is the tone generator side of that plugin that has to create the sound. Okay. So let me let this finish. It's almost done, and then I'll tell you guys a little bit about. I'll just break down MIDI. I know I did a talk about this a couple of videos ago, but I'll just go over it again briefly here. Okay, that's done. Okay, so let's talk about MIDI and audio for a quick second. MIDI is the language by which musical instruments, digital musical instruments, speak to each other. It's a string of zeros and ones that has nothing to do with sound, nothing to do with actual audio. Okay. So when you buy a keyboard like this, like the one behind me here, let me switch to another camera. When you buy a keyboard like this, this is considered as a music workstation, a synth. So this has a number of parts inside of it, a number of modules, a number of elements that come together to make it do what it does. One of the main features on this thing is a keybed. The keybed is connected internally via MIDI internally to its tone generator. The tone generator, there's a tone generator that lives inside this synth, and the keys on here are connected to the tone generator via MIDI internally, right? So how do they communicate? Well, these keys are just like your light switch on your wall. All they're a bunch of switches, but they're special in that they're velocity sensitive switches, so they can tell how hard you press. If you press real soft, it sends us a lower value. If you press real hard, it sends a larger value. That value is transmitted to the tone generator via a language called MIDI, right? So that's all MIDI is. MIDI is the language by which it can get this key data, this keybed data from here and send it anywhere it wants, either to the internal tone generator, or there are ways to separate the internal tone generator of this keyboard. That's the mode I actually have this in right now. It's a mode called local control off. So every keyboard has it in a different place in the menus, somewhere in the utilities, but it's a thing you can do to keyboards like this, where you can turn this into a regular, one of those cheap MIDI controllers you see, one of those Axiom things with no sounds in it, but it's just a keybed. So right now, that's what I've done to this. In the local control off mode, I've separated the keybed from the tone generator. Now, why would I want to do that? The reason for doing that would be so that I can send this key bed data into Logic to be recorded, and then Logic can send that MIDI data, which is all MIDI data is information about which pitch, which note I play, velocity, how hard I play that note, and things like aftertouch. Like this fancy keyboard has aftertouch, which is if I squeeze the note a little harder, then it can do a little wiggle or other things like that. It can send pitch bend and modulation data. Now, these have nothing to do with actual sound. It's just information that's going to be read by a tone generator somewhere, right? So this keyboard has a tone generator. I actually have, I don't know if you can see. Let me go back to the other camera real quick. This here is another tone generator, and this here is another. They're just like these keyboards, but they're keyboards without keys. Right? That's all they are. They're the tone generator sections. This is the tone generator section of a Motif ES. That regular Motif ES that you've been seeing on stage and in shows and concerts. That's the same keyboard there, but just without the key bed. There's no keys. So it's just the tone generator section of a Motif ES. The one below is the tone generator section of a Roland Integra 7. Well, they never really made a physical Integra 7 keyboard. Roland never did. But the idea behind that Integra 7 was to get all the tunes from all the Rolands that were ever made, the 1080, the 5080, the 3080, the XP80, the XP, all the cool Roland keyboards, plus the SRX boards, and just put them in a rack module. And that's what that Integra 7 is. Okay, so to use one of those, you need an external key bed to tell the library of sounds in there what pitch, what notes you're playing, right? And that's exactly, somebody saying sound modules, exactly, that's what it is. It's just a sound module or a tone generator, okay? A sound, right? It generates these sounds. There's libraries of sounds in each one of those things: pianos, electric guitars, strings, all those things. And those libraries are addressed via MIDI. MIDI is just the language that tells it what notes to play. So when you bring up a fancy soft synth, like a software instrument in any one of your DAWs, and you send MIDI data, the thing that drives your CPU to heavy usage is not necessarily the MIDI data per se. MIDI is very tiny. It's very, if I were to check the size of the MIDI data that I just played, if I were to export this MIDI track, just that MIDI guitar track, if I were to export that and see the size of it, it would be a few kilobits. It's very tiny, small data, because it's literally just switching data. But when it gets interpreted by a tone generator that lives in a computer, that's where the heavy lifting happens, because the computer then has to generate the sounds associated with the MIDI, right? So don't think that MIDI itself is CPU intensive. It actually isn't, right? So there you go. I'm eventually I'll probably have a whole separate video on MIDI and how to hook up your external synths and all that. But for now, suffice it to say that MIDI of itself is not a heavy protocol. All right, so let's go back to the top of the song and listen to what we just got. Right now, I can mute the MIDI since I've just recorded it as audio, and let's have a listen to the audio. Yeah, man, Earl, no scene. And like I say, and ask your questions. Any of you guys who have questions, just ask them. I'll try to answer them as best I can. Yeah, Kadeem, same song from yesterday. We continue in the mix. Kiana, seeing your question, sometimes when a song has a lot of elements, uh, it's obvious where the melody should go, but it's not obvious where the accompaniment, where all the accompaniment parts should go. So sometimes is, well, for me at least, I find it easier to go through finding spaces for all the accompaniment, knowing that the lead is going to sit on top of all of it. So I know that I have to leave space for the lead, but I want to hear every accompaniment bit in its own space before I add that lead. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's my process. Lots of other people approach it the other way around, where they put the lead in first and hang things off of it. I just find the lead can mask things, and I like to be very transparent. I like to hear everything that's going on before I put that lead on, because I know the lead is going to be the most important thing. I know the lead is going to be louder than a lot of the things I mix in the arrangement. So rather than masking them and not hearing issues, I prefer to add the accompanying elements first. Make sure they all get a good space, fit in a good space, and then lay the lead on top of that. That way I'm not hunting. Sometimes if you put the lead on first and then something clashes, it could be hard to detect. It could be hard to tell which track is causing the clash, right? So by doing it this way, I find I save myself a lot of that headache. Now, this is not to say this is the only way it should be done. Lots of guys prefer to do it the other way. This way just works for me. One last thing I'm seeing to add here. It's called leads. I know this is a lead synth, so let me see what it's saying. I know it's a lead synth. Let's hear what it's saying. Okay, so it's another thing that's doubling the melody. I'll move this off to one side for color. So I'll put this behind the horns. All right, so there's a thing I want to do with these strings. They're very constant, and I wanna change the dynamics of that a little bit. So view, zoom, focus, track. So these are the strings here. I'm gonna write some automation onto those strings. So in the choruses, I'm gonna have them a little more forward. In the verses, I'm gonna have them a little more behind. So here's my automation. I'm gonna choose volume, and right now I like where the volume is as a general volume. All right, so I'm gonna call that the verse volume. Sorry, the chorus volume, and I know that the verses are in these gaps of the brass. So I can look here in the gaps of the brass and tell exactly where the verses are. So I'm going to use those as visual cues to tell me where the strings should dip. All right, so I'm going to put my first point there. Put my second point there. And I'm going to control. I'll put 2 more points. 1, 2. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so I get be a little more accurate, and I'm just gonna pull this to a new low level. This is just arbitrary. Let's hear what it sounds like. Let's hear that transition again. Not bad. So I know minus 22 is where I want to start at. Esteban, I've seen your question. Your question is, how do you avoid phase problems when all those instruments double in? When I make things mono, everything disappears. Right. So that could mean a couple of things. That could mean that couldn't just mean you gotta check what is the phase relationships between similar sounding tracks. So checking in mono is important. Every now and again, check your mix in mono. I do that. I have a mono knob in my studio that I could just press and hear in mono. Unfortunately, I can't send mono to you guys online. I don't have that monitoring path set up for you guys to hear mono. You guys can only hear stereo at this point. But when you doing your mix, continually check things in mono, yes, and not just the entire mix. You can solo 2 tracks next to each other and check them in mono. Check those 2 tracks, how they feel next to each other in mono. If you get cancellation when checking 2 tracks, let's say 2 horn tracks, as you say, Esteban. If you hear cancellation when you check 2 horn tracks next to each other in mono, just flip the phase of one of them. How do you flip the phase? I can tell you in Logic. What you want to do is go to that track. I'll just do it on this since we're here. Go to that track, and the first plugin to put on, go to utility, I believe it is, and put a gain plugin on. Right? And these knobs here, see that symbol, that circle with the line through it? That's your phase invert, right? Every DAW should have a basic utility gain plugin with a phase invert. I know Pro Tools does. I know Studio One does. This is what it looks like in Logic. So look at the relationship between those two soloed tracks. If you get phase cancellation in one, normally those would be mono tracks. This is coming up with two separate phase buttons because this is a stereo track, right? This plugin allows me to now flip the phase of one side. Now, if you end up with a mono track, you'd only see one phase button here. So flip the phase of one side and see if that solves your problem. If it does solve your problem, you're happening. And another place where this is important to take note of is when you're miking snare drums. Remember, if you put a mic at the top of your snare drum and another mic below your snare drum near to the trap, then they will get recorded out of phase of each other because they're facing each other, right? So when the diaphragm of one mic goes in, the diaphragm of the other mic goes out. And if you try to take those two signals as two tracks next to each other in Logic or Pro Tools or wherever, and you try to play them together, they will cancel each other somewhat, right? Phase-wise. So it's important to put a gain plugin on one side of it and flip the phase of one of those mics. If you're not doing it on the console already. Some people solve that problem at the console. If you've done it at the console, then you don't have to do it in Logic. Most of us these days don't use a console. Like me, I do have a console in my studio. So if I record a snare top and bottom, I always put a gain plugin on one side and flip the phase. Is important. All right, good vibes, Esteban. So yeah, so we're gonna continue here. We're gonna drop the level of the strings in the gaps that indicate the verses. All right, I've done the first one already, and I'm just gonna shift and copy that onto the second one. And I'm going to do the same thing for the third one. So they're all going to drop by the same amount. All right, I think that's the majority of the elements in. Let's not view that automation. Hit save. That's the majority of the elements in. Let's make sure. Yes, that looks like the majority. Okay, so this was an element that I was in two minds about. Let's have a listen to it again. So this synth is a bit loud. I'm gonna turn the brass up a bit. adding some light compression to all the chordal stuff. So I was just checking the placement of that that element there. That element is recorded heavily to the left side. You can see that here, and for that reason, it was making the whole chordal stem left heavy. Alright, there's enough stir in it, so I moved it over to the right to compensate. I think my strings might be too loud, but let's turn the other things back on. Yep, those strings are a little too loud. So instead of -22, I'll say -24. So that compressor really brought the strings out. So let's check the low sections. All right, so I think I have everything in perspective now. The next thing to do, even before I add the lead, I'm gonna start to add some space now. So I'm gonna mute everything back down to the drums. I'm gonna choose. Now I have some cool reverbs and thing I like to use for drums, but for this mix, I'm gonna try to stay stuck, right? So you guys could see that you could get a really good mix with only stock stuff. So let's see. First send. We're gonna call this reverb. And what are we gonna use? Let's use something native. So I'm gonna use Um, I'll use Space Designer Stereo. And for a quick song like this, I'm gonna use a room. I'm gonna use a huge room though, so 4.5 seconds. Not set in stone. We'll see how it works. So this is the entire drum bus getting sent to that room. Not bad. Already not bad. Esteban, I see something from you there. Thank you so much. We could talk about that. Nice. So I like the sound of the drums there in that room. Let me bypass your room so you can feel what that reverb did to the kit. See how dry that feels? Snare feels a little tight, a little short. You can put back good length on the snare now. Early on, I cut some tail of the snare because there was a ringing note, and it actually got too short. But I didn't mind at that point because I knew this was a process that I was going to do. So by adding this reverb now, it lengthens that snare back without the note. Check it out. Snare now has a glorious tail. It's still aggressive. It has a good tail, and there's no ringing note in there anymore. Right? Because this is a mid-tempo song, 105, you really don't want to wet things too much because overdoing reverb could get you muddy. Right? So I have a very little getting sent to that drum kit, but that minus 26 being sent, but that little bit does a lot. Alright? I'm gonna do the same thing with the percussion. Percussion is nice. It could also benefit from that reverb, but not as much as the drums. So I'm gonna send and all of a sudden the congas have a nice glow on it. I'm gonna bypass that so you can hear the difference. And I'm gonna turn it back on. Can I add a hair more? Let's hear the drums and percussion together. drums and percussion feel good. Let's look at this bass one more time. So that ride came in there on the cymbals track, but for a short while, but they felt a little loud. A cool thing you can do in Logic, I think you can do this easily in Cubase as well, is clip gain. So I just selected that bit of ride cymbal on the crash track, and I'm just gonna pull the clip gain down. Right now it's set to -10, and I'm gonna pull that down even more. Okay, let's hear what that ride sounds like. Even less. Nice, it sounds like it's in place now. It's me just doing some housekeeping, cutting out some silence, things that I don't need. On cymbal tracks, you gotta be careful. Notice I'm cutting away from the wave on the left side, but close to the wave on the right side. The reason for that is sometimes there's tail of the wave that you can't see. So I'm just being aware of that and not cutting too close to the left side of the wave. Yeah, Keon, Studio One have a few features that I actually do like a lot. One of the main things that I wish Logic adopted from Studio One is that plugin. They have a few other things, but you see the plugin search, that there's a real good feature in Studio One. But I know Apple like to thief, so Apple going to get that soon. Let's turn on the chord stuff now. So I just heard a tom there that felt it's a little punchy. Let me just solo that tom, and I may cut some top end from that. So one point I want to make is these tools, these EQ tools and compressors and things that have these nice fancy graphics, they tend to make you want to mix by looking, and that is not a good thing. Uh, Visual feedback is good, but always use your ears first. And I find myself sometimes putting the mouse on a parameter and literally closing my eyes to make changes, because your eyes can deceive you. Your eyes can tell you, because you're seeing this fancy spectral thing there, it makes you want to touch things that don't really need to be touched, or it makes you it fools you into thinking you need to adjust uh, more than you should, right? So the visual feedback is cool, but remember, music is to be listened to, not looked at, right? So as much as you can, when you make changes, rely on your ears, and sometimes you should. This is a thing I practice a lot. Find the parameter with the mouse. Close your eyes. Try not to look. Try let your ears determine when you should stop moving that parameter. Okay, so a part of my process is closing my eyes a lot while I turn knobs. Nice. So that tom, now it was fighting with the snare based on how aggressive, how percussive it was. Now it's more round. It feels more like a tom. Listen to it. Right, that's the new tom sound. I'm gonna bypass the EQ. You can hear what it was like before. Heard that, how slappy and aggressive it was. I'm gonna play the old no EQ. Right, not a bad sound, but it's in the space of the snare. It's in the sonic space of the snare. I'm gonna turn the EQ back on and listen to the tom now. Right, that's what that tom should be doing. I can get a little more volume from it now that I've cut away so much of its aggressiveness. Nice. Let's listen to this song from the top. Coming very close to where we should be adding the lead. Nice. That reverb on the kick actually makes the kick feel bigger. Moving some air there. I like that. So those two tom tracks feel a little loud, but I like the sound of them. Let's hear that section there again. So there's the bass I'm looking at again. I still want some more weight if I could get it. Not volume, but weight. All right, they're gonna add that lead in there now. Let's see what that sounds like. At main pan. So let's add that in. Sorry about that, but Keon, by chance, do you have a version of that pan with no EQ? What mic did you use? For some reason, it sounds a little thin here, the solo track, as though the bounce has an EQ on it. I wish the sound was a little fuller and richer, a little more low mid. Have no way to really add that with an EQ. I wish it was just a raw sound from the microphone. Which microphone? Tell me which microphone you used to record as well. Um, it feels a little small right now. Let me listen again. Okay, SM57, and there was no EQ, right? The bounce that you sent me had no EQ, right? Yeah, if you watch the spectrum on this pan here, I barely have anything under 500 hits. I'm looking for a little 300, a little something I could push. Let me see if I could just that out a little. That affecting volume more than anything else. It actually did help. So this is your pan with no EQ. And this is your pan with EQ. It's a very subtle difference, but I'm trying to get some lower frequencies in there. Actually gonna change this EQ to a linear phase one. So let's go to EQ, linear phase EQ. That way, because I'm making some drastic cuts here and I don't want it to mess with the phase relationships of the. Oh, I did the linear phase EQ on the wrong thing. This was a drum bus, and I had a compressor on there, so I'm gonna put that compressor back. Let's turn the drum bus on. Let's fix that compressor back. Yeah, Kian, rolling off 80 hertz should be okay. That shouldn't be a problem. And where did you roll off that 80 hertz though? What's your recording chain look like? What devices you're using to get into the sound card? Where's that roll off switch? Where did that chime come from? That's the first time I'm hearing that. Let's find it. Yeah, somewhere along the line there, you had an EQ on the PreSonus board or something, Keon, because that sounded a little thinner than a regular SM57 to me. Sound like it had a lot more than 80 hertz roll off. Check that out. The next question I have for you is, if you're using a Studio Live, why would you then go into a Sapphire? Because the Studio Live is an interface. So talk to me about your process there. Why? What's your reason using both a Sapphire and the Persona Studio Live? Okay, and I just see the picture you sent there. Yeah, that roll off still looking a little high, right? That roll off looking like one something, one 120. Maybe you should roll off like around 50. Move that node to around 50 or 60 at highest. 68 should be okay for your low frequency roll off, right? Other than that, yeah, you're good. It's actually, I seen it saying 130 there, 130. Frequency saying 130. Next time, bring that all the way down to 60, 65. Right? That should be okay. Yeah, that's some low things in the pan that I wish I had all around that. 130, 140, 200 hertz, man. Alright. Gonna start putting some plugins on the master now. So I just turned down the output to you guys on the stream because when I turn these plugins on, it's gonna get a little loud. It's gonna get a little hot. So this is just some master bus compression, multi-band compression. Yeah, so most times while I mix, depending on the genre, if I'm doing hip hop or something, I might have a compressor on the master while I mix. Um, but yeah, mixing into a plugin on the master. So it depends on the genre. If I'm doing like this kind of Caribbean jazz kind of pan music, I like to leave the master open. Not much processing. I do like to make this music very punchy or bass heavy the way R&B and pop is I like to do that. This one is a lot more air, a lot more space, a lot less heavy. So I normally put the mastering plugins, the master bus plugins on very last on this genre. Let's go from the top. Yeah, man. I usually put a plugin on the master bus. Yes, I usually do. So right now I leave in minus 0.1 dB of headroom. That's peak. So right now it'll be like a loud master. If you want to further master it, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to, because this is I think the mix is strong enough and the output level does conform with broadcast. You don't really want anything louder than this for this genre of music. Anything louder than this is gonna get turned down by iTunes and those guys anyway. iTunes, YouTube, everybody will turn your level back down to this level. So you don't really want more volume than this. Nice, Keon. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. We came a long way with this one. Good vibes. I may still do a couple tweaking to more offline, but yeah, I think you guys get the general gist of what went on from the beginning to almost 99.9% end there. All right. I may still go and add a few final touches tomorrow, and I'll send you a file tomorrow, Keon. Good vibes, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting, and Esteban, special thanks to you. You guys, if you have your projects on hard drives, you want to finish them, you don't know how, you need some support, you need some help, you need some advice, you need a professional mix engineer to mix it for you, or you need help with direction, just reach out to me. Let me know what you need. My email address and contact number is on the screen. Feel free to reach out, and we can work something out. All right. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back on tomorrow doing something new. All right. So see you guys.